Okay, is the sound on the right thing? Not that. Chat up. All right, folks. Let's do our routine audio check here. Please let me know. Let me know a couple things. Let me know how the stream quality works because we're still on the hotspot, folks. It's like this was Trump in the first term. He was like, I forget what the question the reporter asked, and his response is like, "You got to get Wi-Fi." I don't know what to tell you. You got to get Wi-Fi. All right, next question. And that's really my vision for this show. You know what I mean? Like my ultimate vision for this show would be like an in-person. I'll put a suit on every time. Haven't been able to do that. I like to wear the suits to show that I'm taking things seriously, but having the dog is like a new thing for me, and I'm mostly in like work type clothes to be properly dressed for her. But getting my suits together, like the one that I did not wear at the Kotzman Julien thing, because let's not go there. Let's all right, so stream quality is good because like I said, we're still on the hot spot. By Wednesday of next week, we will have Wi-Fi in the barracks. That's my name for the house here, because Wednesday at 10 o'clock at night really does deserve a retail only show, because there is not a retail led show Wednesdays at 10 Eastern anymore, because of the recent change. But anyway, let me look at my notes here. Okay, couple things. Let's start the show off right. I want this to be fun. How's Vega? Oh, we're gonna get there. We are gonna get there. It's kind of like an awkward start, because it's like, does the mic work? Does the camera work? But this is the life of a one boy, one girl dog ticket here. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ryQuant broadcast, episode 6. Let's get this started. When it's time to sweep out is bleeding in the snow cone. So smart, she's leading into ozone. Music, the great communicator. All right. So, into the broadcast, and it just tastes like victory. You know what I mean? Oh no, are we coming in laggy? Are we coming in laggy? 21M threads are coming in laggy. This is also a tough thing to try and read read the feedback in real time. But yeah, let me know if the quality is still good here. But man, it just feels like, what a day, wipe out the leverage. So can people still, because again, I don't know how the hotspot is better now. And thank you all for the live feedback. It's like we're all in this together. Thank you everyone for the live feedback. The hotspot, that I might do one more show between now and Wednesday, but we're almost at the end of this. But thank you for participating in the help. But man, it just tastes like victory, to like be able to just, in my own property, not only am I not looking for a job, I'm going out of my way to like make myself unemployable at this point. Given the course of events, with some of the True North type stuff, I almost got like scammed by a co-founder on another separate venture. If I talk to you about Torque Treasury, that's what I'm referring to. And it just feels so good. You know what I mean? The neighborhood feels great. Yesterday, the neighbor came by to drop off cookies, and I've really been good about cutting out the sweets. But last night I had about 13 of these, and again, it just tastes like victory. Like so much came into this like outcome. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, but I am extremely grateful for it. Want to be clear on that. And I'm glad MicroStrategy at the time had an options market. Because it's anyway, enough with that. Let's get to the dog. So she's amazing. She makes me a better person. You know what I mean? Like by just like being around her and her routines, and then like, using her nap times for like me to be like productive, forces me to be a better person. And I learned from her in the sense of like, if we want to do something, we're taking immediate action and like doing it right now, right this second. Because, before, when I was in that dump of an apartment, San Diego, like when you're unemployed, no responsibility, no accountability, like you can like really like push stuff off. But then you get a war dog and it's like, no, we're taking immediate action now. We're doing the thing. We're knocking it out. So I feel like she's already making me a better person, pushing me to be like more like giving me that workout buddy that I kind of, was looking for, running partner, someone to wrestle around with on the beach. Well, maybe I wasn't looking for that in a human, but that's something we do. Cuddling for her is like a contact sport. And I love every second of it. And we spend all day together. Like she's always by my side. And we love it. Some of the tricks she can do, this is where it gets fun. Like the other day we were just walking down the street and I give her the command the command itself is go rob that bank. And then she runs into the bank, she comes out with a cartoon bag of money, the $sign on it. And I'm like, good girl. That's a good working line dog. And then we kept walking a couple more blocks and I was like, go embezzle money from that nonprofit. She runs in there, she scams everyone in the room because she gets verbal, scams everyone in the room, runs back. Here's a wire transfer. And it's like, good girl, good. Go commit international money laundering. Let me know how it goes. No, but the real stuff she can do, like her physical fitness is just unbelievable. The other day, we couldn't get on the field that we normally go to because the guys were flying around on the lawnmowers. So we went to a tennis court, We were playing with a tug toy. She jumped over me off the vert. It's like a basketball term for guys who can dunk from just standing there jumping up, like they don't have to take a running start. She jumped over me from a standstill start. It was one of like the most impressive. She's a small dog too, but her thighs are just stacked with extra muscle, and it's dense, and it comes out like this. The thighs are huge, massive, but so yeah, unbelievably cool, like life-changing, like event, just getting like Vega, like the house, who cares? This place is a dump. By the way, this place is a dump, right? And like, that's kind of what it should be. Again, one of the reasons the last episode sucked, I wasn't even shaved. The kitchen island and the counter had like stuff all over it. We're just using this as like a temporary like war space while I get like the bedroom set up, and then we'll probably move this downstairs to the war room. That's where I want to have this set up, because then we're on the same level as where she'll be going to the bathroom and all that stuff. We'll get to that. But yeah, the house is a dump. The John Goodman, this is something I want to do on the show, is to be able to like show clips like with the sound. I messed that up on the first broadcast, but that John Goodman, I believe it's from Gambler, where he's sitting there with the Mark Wahlberg character, and he's like, "What'd you put away?" Mark Wahlberg he wants to hold the details close to his chest. And John Goodman just goes, "Look, any schmuck knows you go up like millions of dollars. Like, here's what you do. You buy a Jap economy shit box, and that is your fortress of fucking solitude." I'm still holding the cookie. "And that is your fortress of fucking solitude. You know, pay your taxes, like get a return on your money, live off of that money, and that's it. And don't drink." And that's all I have to say to anyone at any social level. That's just what I remember of it. There's more to that like epic speech, but the most important part of this speech is don't drink. And that's all I have to say to anyone at any social level. Quick story there. From like when I was like in the army, and like early Rutgers was like drinking a lot. It was too much. I took 5 years off from drinking from 2018 to 2023. Oddly kind of started back up because I was like putting myself out there like publicly on like videos. Bad decision. But those 5 years of like not a drop of alcohol, that's where I, learned everything I know now about investing. So I was just so locked in. I was ignoring grad school completely, both undergrad and then grad school. I was just like really just kind of ignoring that. And I was just like studying finance, investing, building models, working on Excel, studying Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Stanley Druckenmiller, Nassim Taleb, Christopher Cole, Peter Thiel, Michael Saylor, like all the people I had, respected, admired, looked up to, whatever you want to call it. So that's, and like the way I felt, like my day-to-day health, like my mood, my energy levels, like literally everything was better. Literally everything was better. And I've been, doing this again for months now since, I don't know. I usually really know the dates of these sorts of things, but it was like midsummer. It was after Bitcoin Vegas. I don't know. But again, I feel phenomenal, and I don't feel like I needed to like lower the inhibitions or whatever, put myself out there publicly. But I do. And I don't, not trying to pressure anyone or like anything like that. But I do think that's worth being said. Like, just like, especially men, like guys, it's like, give it up in like your young 20s. Like, I would say that actually is like real advice I would give to like a friend, a family member, especially someone who's like 20 to 25. It's like, by 25, give it up and like never look back at the latest. But all right, that's enough on that. let me check my notes here, because this is one thing I didn't do the last episode, where I just bombed. There's so much going on, so much on my mind, so many moving pieces, was totally unorganized. I had show notes written up, didn't even look at them, just incoherently rambled from one thing to the other. So we talked about the dog, we talked about this thing. All right. So let's try and let's try and bounce back here. So I want to kind of talk about like the things I've been like doing lately, as it pertains to like, you know, financial practices. I want to talk about the things that I want to do. Ooh, like one of them, I was gonna do this. I couldn't get 2 machines up and running on the hotspot. They would just both equally run like not good enough to. I couldn't get this one, or vice versa. What I think is cooler than like just me posting like, you know, hundreds of words on Twitter, and then like all the necessary like screenshots of like data tables, or like custom visuals, custom like KPIs, like MSR net growth rate or something like that. I think it's actually more interesting, to the extent that anyone else finds this interesting, for me to like show the end-to-end process. This is something they don't do on True North, and have probably never even thought of, but I think it's more interesting to show like the end-to-end process of me, like starting at the data source of like where I'm pulling my CSVs, you know, and then taking that to an Excel, a Google Sheet, a Python, a terminal of some sort. To be honest, you know, Excel ends up being like a one-stop shop, even for however like very nuanced like formulas you want to write, or automation in Excel VBA editor. Like between the Excel, the Python in Excel, like the chat GPT overlaid on top of that, to just keep quickly looking up like, how do I do this? How do I build a correlation table? Like what is this? Excel honestly ends up being a great one-stop shop. I do also like Tableau for certain things, certain visualizations, and the way that you can drag drop variables like really quickly when you're trying to identify just like a visual relationship, right? Or absence of a relationship. So yeah, so you get the data CSV, take it somewhere, typically like Excel, and then you can like create your own custom like formulas, analytics, like KPIs, like in rows on the data on the CSV. You can make your own visualizations. From there, you can get much more advanced and do things like, you know, create like functional automated Excel like files that not only pull in data like autonomously through a web source, but then it gets like force fed through your own calculations, and then like returned to you in a GUI type format. What does GUI stand for? I forget. Graphical user interface. So think like a web page window, or just directly on like another sheet on the Excel workbook. So I think that end-to-end process, like showing people how to do this, like the what you can do with formulas in Excel, to the extent that people care, I think that's like really, really interesting. So I want to do that, because I want to do that for the correlation between MSTR and Bitcoin divided by gold, or gold divided by Bitcoin, which is the same thing essentially. Because my guy, July's own Jay, dude, my absolute boy, tagged me in this thing, and I started working on it, and I was going to do it end to end on here, but we'll have to do that next time. And then the other big thing I want to do in that kind of like very hands-on, like step-by-step type thing, is the cash book. This is something I wanted to do since last year, but it's like it always got like pushed to the side for one reason or another. Like one reason being is because like strategy is like a perpetual FUD machine. there's always like some engagement grifter, some bad investor. Not all of them are bad investors. Again, big to Chanos. Periodic reminder, please be good to Chanos. He's a good man. He's a very, very talented investor. I get it. He's lost on Tesla, but he's a very, very talented investor. And I read his Twitter like the newspaper. Like I'll go to his page, I'll go to his replies so that I see all of his posts and all of his comments to other people, which are also hilarious. But like I learned something in the way that he goes through balance sheets. I'm sorry, I'm about to cough. In the way that Chanos goes through balance sheets and cash flow statements on like a line by line item and like annualizes everything and like presents these like, comparison or thoughts or ideas. We have to be good to Chanos. He's a good man. But yeah, so back to the opposite point. It's a perpetual FUD machine. There's always like some engagement grifter or like a bad investor or like just one of these jokers out there who has a loud microphone. So there's kind of this need to like fight back. Fight back is such an unnecessarily like I hate in politics when either party of the uniparty wants to be like, we gotta fight back. Like it's such an over exaggeration of reality. But you gotta like, hold the line a little bit against like the perpetual FUD. So that ends up taking a lot of time. The need to want, or the desire to want to like create new things and engineer new things ends up taking up like more of one's brain space. So that's a long-winded answer to say this is something I've wanted to like go through on a step-by-step basis because it is like a big part of my life. I mean, it's what funds my lifestyle. And this is a really good opportunity, I think, to push back on like a lot of the bad like Bitcoin ideologies out there. You know what I mean? Like this like weird peer pressure for people to be like 100% Bitcoin is like one of the dumbest things like I've ever heard in my fucking life. You know what I mean? Part of my friend, again, I want this to be a family show, but like with comedy, but I want this to be a family show. That was a joke. Where was I going with that? This is the bad thing about not having another person on the show is that there's no one there to re-guide you back on track when you get lost. Oh, right. Yeah. So I've been wanting to do the cash book thing for a while. We're going to do that. And I'm going to do that and like starting on like a blank Excel file, typing in like the ticker symbols I have, which to throw them out there. These are all in like different weightings, but boat, that's the industrial shipping of like cargo with like the Connex containers on them, typically from like Beijing to, or maybe not Beijing, but typically from China, Taiwan to, Los Angeles. And that's real deal equity, right? It yields to the tune of like 11, 12, 13%. It pays quarterly. And again, that's like a real deal equity play. Whereas some of these things like the covered call ETFs, whether it be like a MISTI or a QQQI, that's not real deal equity, right? I mean, it's literally not. It's synthetic positions that require active management, which is much different than like real deal equity. And that one tends to very much not be correlated to really any other risk assets. And I'm going to touch on correlation a lot. So let's start with the definition of what correlation is. Correlation is like describes the linear relationship between two or more variables. The more simple way to, conceptualize that is like, do two or more things move in the same direction? Like, all right, let me do it like this. Do they move in the same direction? Two things. This is tough to figure out on the fly. The two things, thing one, thing two, do they move in the same direction? Do they move in opposite directions? Or is there like no relationship really whatsoever? And we measure that through a scale from -1 to +1. At the extreme ends of these scales, -1 and +1, that's, equally good, right? Or equally bad, depending on how you're looking at it. Like a positive correlation of 0.9 or 90% is like the same strength of relationship as -90% or -0.9. 0, represents like absolutely no relationship whatsoever between the two things. So yeah, that's the definition. That's the range of numbers, the scale and how it works. And this is going to come back up when we do like on Excel, like, the Coral formula, which is for correlation. That's the Pearson formula for correlation. So yeah, I like both. And this is one of those things that like I haven't checked the price of this thing since like the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? Like this is one of those things I don't even know how many shares of it I even own. I typically know that for everything, but I don't even know how many I own. And it's just every quarter the money's there. The money's there every quarter. And the equity, like I said, I like the correlation and I like the performance for what you get there. So that's that. I also have, like QQQI, and that has a pretty like liquid options, which I briefly described earlier, but that's, NASDAQ 100 index exposure by means of, synthetic selling of, covered calls, hedging it this way, that way, whatever. Some people love these things. Some people hate them. I don't know. I kind of just see them for what they are, as like tools, and like don't really take an ideological viewpoint on these things. This is kind of like an amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. Like, by the way, let's coin that. Amateurs talk ideology and professionals talk allocation percentage, right? Like at the very beginning of Misty, there was reason for me to own like a decent chunk of this. Let's call it like this. Now there's reason for me to own something like more like this, because I want like more stability in my yield each month, even at the expense of at the trade-off of getting less overall dividend yield each month. And I want more stability in the base, like in the principal, like in my equity value of the cash book as a whole. I want more of it in both. I want more of it in the prefs. I want more of it in gold, and I'll get paid on that by selling covered calls. But by the way, I got wrecked. And it's like small dollar amounts, so it's like fun to talk about, and it's a good learning lesson. But yeah, I got shredded, negative like 400%. I sold the covered calls, like a typical Hermes Lux, routine. 30 days, 10 delta, like felt very good about it. That was at like $3,400 gold price. And then like 2 weeks later, like gold had screamed to like 3750. And I bought the covered calls back at like negative 400% loss, which again, it's a small dollar amount. So it's kind of comical at the negative 400%. But, so sometimes you lose on that is what I'm saying, right? And the thing I like about, sometimes you lose on the covered call piece, but I just so much like gold because again, I don't believe in anything. I'm joking. I do believe in a lot of things, but what I'm trying to say is like I'm a soulless analyst. Like I almost want to be like a medical doctor in the sense of like let the evidence, let the data like direct me. I come into the analysis with no prior conceptions or ideologies or like narratives that I've already like manufactured, and then now trying to find data to support the idea that I've already manufactured. So because of that, and because I understand how anti-correlation and like leverage works, yeah, dude, I want to own gold. You know what I mean? And I should have come to this realization like much sooner than I did, which is, of course, a very natural thing for anyone to say after something goes up by a big move. But that does not mean I'm loading the boat now. I have no interest in being a buyer of gold right here, but I love what you get out of gold, right? And like Dalio has talked about this like on numerous occasions. He's like, what you perfectly want, like what you ideally absolutely want are 5 to 10 or he says non, but you want 5 to 10 non-correlated assets. That's what you want. That's what you want, because then it really opens up the optionality to do creative things in the form of leverage. Of course, this is not financial advice, and I actually mean that. I'm not trying to convince or persuade anyone. I'm just sharing my thoughts at large here. But leverage in the sense of like a margin loan to buy more equities or more call options, which, by the way, I do not see that trade here. I would not feel comfortable on a margin loan just for the purpose of owning more assets. I would not feel comfortable doing that. I do have leverage in the form of, you know, the mortgage, a securities backed line of credit, a couple other things. Oh, right. I was going to talk about this. There is like a real, like massive like ability for people to just like be like their own financial engineer, like given that someone has like a very comfortable and confident understanding of how like debt and leverage and like interest payments and like all that like stuff works. There are so many like creative ways to borrow money at very reasonable or even like free terms out there. Like, you know, let's say someone hypothetically, like they get the big borrow out of the way with the mortgage. And then there's, you know, potentially a securities backed line of credit on top of that. And then there's perhaps 0% APR credit cards on top of that. And then there's perhaps personal loans at a bank on top of that, if like the rates like make sense. And again, this is where like the Excel and like the modeling and the ability to do like just Excel math, right? Which is like statistical grid-based like math, which I think is like a very attainable skill. We're not talking calculus, Calc 5, trigonometry, geometry, differential calculus, linear algebra. Like we're not talking any of that stuff. This is like very, you know, think about it like grid-based like Excel math. It just really is so interesting what you can do, the optionality one can have, especially when you think about like the big borrow of the mortgage. That is a fixed number, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and please, some of my international folks, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, especially European folks. But I think the fixed rate mortgage is kind of, and maybe this is changing, but I think it's kind of uniquely an American thing. Years ago, I think it was this our CIO at Bristol Myers who was saying like, yeah, like in Europe, it's like ARMs. That's like the norm. And ARMs is, you know, adjustable rate mortgages, which that one singular detail, this is where the understanding of like debt, finance, stuff like that, like comes in handy. Like that one detail between a fixed rate mortgage or an adjustable rate mortgage would have the biggest impact on me and like my ability to like do what it is that I do, because of, you know, the uncertainty, the instability, both in like a mental capacity, which drags on you, and like, you know, I don't know, it's like decays you even faster, the entropy of life. But also it can cause like, you know, a realized like financial loss, like a losing of a house, a inability to take a vacation or send a kid to a private school or like something like that. Like it can really have like a disruptive type outcome. So we also kind of got to be like grateful for what we have for my USA American folks. Like people love to dunk on fiat. Give me a second here. People like love to dunk on fiat, but yeah, it's very American. People love to dunk on fiat, but we should like address how incredibly good the financial system is for Americans. Could deposit convexity kick in and everyone in America wants to pull their money out of all of the banks at the same time? Could that possibly happen? Yes, of course. Oh, see, Bitcoin. There's no counterparty risk. It's like, oh yeah, but there's seed phrase risk. There's $5 like wrench attack risk. There's risks on both sides, guys, and this is what the ideologues like don't get. Not everyone is going to have a calculator with all their money on it. Are you guys nuts? Like, do you people have your hand on the pulse of working class families in America and think that they're going to listen to Safety for 20 hours and then BTC sessions for 10 hours and then Sailor for 100 hours and then figure out how to move all of the value of their life onto this like credit card, a calculator device, which by the way, there's no phone number to call if you forgot your seed phrase or that like 6 to 8 digit like number that you have to do before the seed phrase on the cold card MK4. No phone number to call, no second chances. So yeah, I think like the ideological like view of this stuff of like, you know, and I know even Sailor said this, like sell your chairs, sell all this stuff. But then he's got a mega yacht in the backyard. He's got at least, you know, 2 epic properties, at least. Private jet. So I get it. It's like fun, sell your chairs. I get it. I think the kidney stuff is like too much, if I'm being honest. Like, can we just not, right? Like, can we just not? But yeah. So another thing on the ideological view, like just this is actual like social advice. Like, don't take any ounce of peer pressure from anyone else. Or you know what? One of the dumbest things I've ever heard is, "Oh, you're not a real Bitcoiner." Oh, I'm not a real Bitcoiner. I'm not in the social club, the cliquey high school. I'm not accepted by the group. Oh. That is like the softest, most beta, like even like the fact like the predators of the world, but even like other people be like, you're not a real Bitcoiner. Here's what I am. I'm a real person who looks at finance and investing as a way to stop doing things I don't really want to do, like work at a big corporate company, and do things I actually want to do. Like, get a war dog and work it 3 times a day. Morning run, midday adventure, night run. Late night bite and tug and obedience right here. That's what I want to do. I don't care. I don't care about any of that other ideological stuff. I care about my time on this planet. Most, like, especially my time with my loved ones. I don't care about not being in your stupid fucking ideological group. And that's another thing that we should stop putting any emphasis into. And by the way, I am the right guy to be saying this, because when I from what I saw, I believe I am one of the I know Radu, I know Klein was also like in the in their positions, like at the depths of, like, you know, the carnage after the FTX collapse. But I think I was one of the first people to ever be like loud and proud, like talking about MicroStrategy, publicly assigning my name to this outcome. And why that matters, great question. At that time, FTX, the vibe, so to speak, on Twitter was Bitcoin only. Like, you are forbidden from even talking about MicroStrategy. That was the vibe. You know it, I know it, we all know it. And look at how far the tide has shifted, right? Where now it's much more acceptable to not only be talking about strategy, which happens every day without exception, but it's also acceptable to be talking about the 900th Bitcoin treasury company. Or Naka, which is like worth nothing. If it's worth anything, it's worth a shot at like a hostile takeover. And if anyone wants to do the financial backing of a hostile takeover of Naka, I would be very much interested in participating on the operation and execution of removing David Bailey, firing him, ousting him, and having like real serious operators, not just myself, other people running the public company, because that's what's in the best interest of shareholders, not these absolute losers who have never said or done an interesting thing in their entire life. They have no idea what leadership is. They are con artists. David Bailey is trying his best job to mimic Donald Trump, the most successful con man, which is short for confidence man, in American history. This whole let's get a bit more interactive, because this shit bothers me. You know what I mean? And no one else is going to talk about it. This whole him walking with Simon I believe in Japan, this whole him walking with Simon and the whole, like, you know, Donald Trump, like, oh look at how him really trying to like cozy up with the White House, him tweeting like an absolute child, like it's immaturity, like him, you know, the first day public it went up, he's doing like the chef hat, like he did a tweet that was just a chef hat, like, oh, let us cook, trying to get like retail in at the top, even though like all the pipe investors, when the stock was at like 12, 13, 14, in that like ballpark, were while they were still locked up, they were trying to secure private deals to sell their shares like privately for $4.50 when the stock was still in double digits. There was like mechanistically, like no worse way that like this deal could have been structured, with the pipe investors having a lockup that ends before everyone else. They own 90% of the company. They can completely dominate the float, the shares outstanding, and they can like move the price in like entirely on their own. I mean, like what David Bailey's doing, like I don't want to, you know, get carried away here and be like it's criminal, but I'd love to hear the case as to how it's not criminal what he's doing. I mean, he has absolutely no business being there. Look at his pinned tweet. Like, this moron just does not get it. When we're done, everyone will know the name Nakamoto. It's like, you fucking moron. The idea of a company is that it lives forever. I know that's kind of like Simone Sinek, like the infinite game, like applied and overlaid to like the concept of a company. But it's like, you just fundamentally are an intellectual fraud, has absolutely no business being in the position that you're in. Absolutely no business being in the position that you're in. Maybe you feel like the Don will like give you a presidential pardon. I would not bet on that at all. You are a nobody in terms of political power. Ross Ulbricht will get the Libertarian Party out to vote. You're a nobody. Sorry. I did like it just bothers, like, a lot of things in life bother me, but I don't rant that hard on them. This bothers me because he's going after like my people. I am retail first. Like, I come from like what America is: blue collar, working class, no vacations, you know, hard to make like ends meet. Like those are my people, and these are the people that you are preying on. And I like have like there's I'm the guy who can say this. There's nothing I need from the broader Bitcoin community. So anyway, this just really this just bothers me. Let's go back to the notes here before I all right. So yeah, as far as the setup here with the desk, I want this to feel like a show, an entertaining show. Entertaining after that rant. But I want this to be entertaining. I want this to feel like people are, you know, we're sitting down having a cup of coffee, but it's a presentation on my behalf. It's not just like a boring looking like corporate Zoom call like some other shows look like. Just a boring Zoom call. It's like a face here, like you're like, you know, frantically, you've got all these devices and all these things, and you're like frantically looking at all these things that are written down. That's not this. There's nothing written down here. There's no teleprompter. This is mostly off the cuff with like a little bit of structure. But we want this to be fun, not boring and cringe, you know, like True North is. I mean, it just, hey, it is. Don't blame me for observing reality, you know. There's something else I want to talk about too. This might give a little bit more context on like the why I'm so bearish on like the corporate like white collar lifestyle, is because like everything about it is like so fundamentally like fake. And I know there's exceptions to this. It's 100% true. It's 100% true. Naka is to Nakamoto as Nikola is to Tesla. Brilliant metaphor, analogy. I get those two mixed up all the time. I think they mean the same thing. Where was I going? All right, yeah. So blue collar versus white collar. This is something I've noticed over my observed years of lived experience here, between, you know, going door to door with a snow shovel, washing dishes at like 14 in a restaurant, putting floors down after I got out of the Army, like, you know, hardwood floors, LVT. We even did a little carpet. We did tile. I was a private in the Army for, you know, however long, which is just entirely like manual labor. But there's a bond there that's real in all of those like blue collar walks of life. And on the white collar side, again, I know there's exceptions, but it's mostly a dump, right? It's mostly this way too overly Machiavellian, cunning, out for yourself, like win at all costs, like at the expense of others. That almost makes life not worth living. You know, it's like like I know they say like you want loyalty, get a dog, and I love that quote, but there should be loyalty amongst people, especially amongst men. Like there should be trust in each other, because what like a team of people can accomplish when like there is like real loyalty for like the interests of everyone else on the team, and there is real loyalty and real like trust that like I got your back, man. We are in this together. It's us against the world. Like that is just such a magical experience relative to this, you know, white collar, like corporate dump where it's fake. Everyone's out for their own promotion. Everyone's like out for their own ego. That's a big thing in the blue collar, white collar, you know, dynamic, is like there's so many egos on the white collar side to the point where it's like detrimental to the whole thing, you know. Allow me to say this. There's only one person who calls Sailor Mike. And that is probably not an accident. That's by design. Think what you will about that. But there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of there's a lot of this kind of stuff out there on the white collar side, whereas on the blue collar side, like it's so much more about like accomplishing the task at hand, looking out for each other, both on the job and off the job. When I was doing flooring, we would frequently, when we worked like late, starting at like 7 a.m, going until like 7, 8 o'clock at night, the boss would just take us straight to the restaurant. Beers, burgers, steaks, whatever. The boss paid for everything. We frequently did this. If nothing bad ever did happen, but like if someone would have like approached us, or like we somehow like got into a fight, got into a skirmish, like you would have had like powerful Brazilian and Spanish men forcefully ending that situation immediately. My boss Tozo, shout out West Dress. That dude was like a trained UFC fighter, from what I remember. Really, really talented guy. And yeah, that would have been over in a heartbeat. Guys on the white collar corporate side, a lot of them are going to be running for an exit at the first sign of a bar fight. You know, and I know that's almost like a silly example, but I think there is like, you know, a lot to be said about that, about going through this journey of life with people that you have loyalty with, you have trust with, and you kind of just like have their back, they have yours. And that makes life a much more rich, magical experience. And to that end, I'm considering either buying a plot of land and starting my own like Malinois, like, you know, training kennel type facility, or even starting a personal security business to offer like men, armed men with dogs, men with both arms and dogs. Yeah, because those types of, you know, life experiences are really like the real joy of that life has to offer. So yeah, I just really think like, you know, this whole like white collar corporate crap. It's like, oh, you gotta fucking an Outlook account and Microsoft Teams. Remember Microsoft Teams? And you got all these meetings all over the place on the calendar. And if you're running late to the office one morning, you might like show up that day and want to like lie and be like, oh, there was a traffic accident, or oh, my kid did this, and like that's why I'm running late. It's like it's just so fake, and just so because you have to be able to present well to your superiors so that you can progress in the organization, or at least like not get fired. So yeah, it's just the white collar corporate stuff is just such a dump. You know what I mean? Like you can get screwed over like 27 ways from Sunday. You have to protect yourself all the time, whether with like NDAs or this legal, you know, counsel or this, that. It's so fucking messy, complicated. It's just an absolute dump. I'd rather put floors down. I'd rather go back to doing the back-breaking labor with the hammer that, you know, you hit the top of the thing and it, you know, pushes the nail into the hardwood floors, wrecks your body. I'd rather do that and be with those guys than do some corporate scam of a lifestyle. All right, we're working our way down here. Because I mean, this is like, you know, you think about something like Ocean's 11, right? And just how, like, that's like a great example for this. Like, how cool is it that you have 11 people, like similar to like the True North size of the initial, you know, unit, and everyone has their own like subject matter, like expert, like field that they like bring, you know. You've got the acrobatic guy who's like just so nimble and can like jump around. You've got the older gentleman. My name is Lyman Zerga. Who you have to have like a guy who could be like very mega rich to make that request. Plus he also like brought wisdom. You got the guy who knows how to do like the electromagnetic pulse thing, the guy who's like, hang on to your knickers. You know, you've got, who else? You've got the Brad Pitt, the smooth guy. You've got the Clooney. He's kind of like the mastermind of the whole thing, the main character, hence like Daniel Ocean, Ocean's 11. And there's just something so like remarkable about that, you know, this like coming together of like really, really talented people, all bringing a different piece to the puzzle, and then collectively it's a masterpiece, you know. So I think one example is enough. Let's move on. What else we got here? Oh yeah, one of the things I forgot in that dump of a show on Wednesday was I even got up to write this down to make the case of like the MicroStrategy, back to MicroStrategy, which by the way I reserve the right to call it that. I'm something of a traditionalist, and although more times than not I do get strategy out, but it all, the micro just always always hangs in there. But yeah, I got up to write down, the 30, 40, 50 PE type thing. If you look at my page, and again, I wish I could just share this, but I can't run the two laptops on a hotspot. If you look for net growth rate on my page, that's essentially my case of saying you've got strategy who is CAGR growing their Bitcoin per share at 30% a year in the most conservative way of measuring. What do I mean by that? Great question. The team building events. Crap. See, this is why the chat I want to like see what people are saying, but then I lose my stream of consciousness. Where were we? Oh yeah, the PE thing. So what I'm getting at with the net growth rate is it's the combination of two things. It's strategy's ability to grow Bitcoin per share at 30% a year and the expected forward CAGR of Bitcoin, right? I have a way of measuring the CAGR of Bitcoin per share. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the forward expected growth rate is obviously subjective, subject to change. You can plug and play different numbers here, but that's an assumption that one has to make. Whereas the growing of the Bitcoin per share on a look back is much more objective. It's just how do you measure the numbers? So this is what I was saying. I measure this in the most conservative way possible, in that when I start the annual growth, we do use 2020, but we start at the end of the year, on the last day of the year. Take the data point of the last day of every year, and then for 2025, just wherever we are in the year, and you can annualize that last part. I don't, because the CAGR calculations in Excel can go like down to the day and be auto adjusted with just the today function, because then every day that'll go +1 and it'll readjust everything. But yeah, so the way in the most conservative way, we start at the end of 2020 at I believe 70,000 Bitcoin. Maybe it's like 60. It's somewhere like 60, 70,000 Bitcoin at the end of 2020, because I want the more conservative base effect math number, instead of starting at like 10,000 Bitcoin, which I believe was the first purchase, or maybe it was more like 20 in the 20s. I forget some of these numbers, but what I'm saying is I could start at a lower starting point to like juice the number higher. I choose not to, because on all of these like assumptions or areas where there's like input available for the analyst, I want to skew it as conservative, or tilt it as, because skew means something else in the options market. I want to tilt all of my assumptions and everything towards the most conservative way possible. Hence why I start at the end of the year. That is growing at 30 or 31% a year from that point till now. I think that's remarkably impressive. And that in and of itself could justify a 30x, multiple, price to earnings multiple. And then this is where Bitcoin dollar gain comes in as I'm using for earnings. And I know some people think like that could be considered like earnings. I'm in that camp. And there's some people who don't think it should ever be concerned as earnings. The problem with that argument is I think people are just too fixated on like strategy as like a closed-end fund or like a levered ETF or like whatever. But it's not that. It's not that. And this is the thing I was saying to Joe Burnett. And I want to read this entire tweet. Let's do a reading. Because I think this point here is important. Again, I wish I could share this, but like share it on another laptop. But once we get the desktop set up and everything else will be good to go. We go to my own replies. Okay. And I like Joe Burnett. I think he's a really nice guy who means well. So I'm not at all, condemning him, nor am I normally ever. I'm just replying to things at the appropriate place. But okay, so what I said here is, can we please once and for all permanently drop this narrative of MSTR or treasury companies issuing equity at a premium? But I'm really only talking about MSTR. We'll get to that. It's far, far more complex and sophisticated than to look at market cap being greater than Bitcoin NAV and calling it a premium. We'll get to that later. Also, by the way, and this needs to be said, most of the treasury companies are going to fizzle and lose momentum, and people are going to care less and less about them. Whereas I think the opposite is true for MSTR. The most interesting guy, Saylor, gets more interesting as each new treasury follower company joins the strategy. And every non-MSTR treasury company gets diluted like a perpetual ratchet. What I mean by that is, just to take a break from the reading, what I mean by that is Amazon being the first, company of like internet retail in America. That's the main focus. Of course, the business became much more with AWS, everything else, Kindle, all this other stuff, them trying to own everything, Thursday Night Football, you see where I'm going with this. But then like the next company, let's say it was like Alibaba, to the extent that like people like have like listened to Jack Ma, especially Jack Ma from like 10 years ago or so. By the way, I got my furniture is upgrading. I got this like rocker outdoor furniture chair for outdoor once I actually get the couch and everything else. But my furniture yield, like my furniture growth yield of having no furniture is technically infinite. But let's say yesterday or the other day I just had one chair, one table. Now I've got a rocking chair. So I've got like at least, 30, 40, 50%, depending on how you want to measure it, furniture yield at least. Again, this is the silliness of using Bitcoin yield as a comparison metric for multiple companies, because that's not what it is if you're not taking in mass or AKA size or AKA, total Bitcoin stack. But anyway, Jack Ma, this is like Trump. It's like, I don't ramble, I weave ideas in there. But anyway, Jack Ma, when you listen to him from like 10 years ago, he's saying the same exact words that Jeff Bezos said 20 years before that. Like, we are obsessed with like the customer experience, absolutely obsessed with customer experience. We are focused on like efficiency, like shrinking and shortening the amount of time it takes for a package to get to a house. What else is it? We want to make our service a no-brainer for the customer, meaning like Bezos was saying this about Prime, because Prime itself was a really big bet if they could cover the costs on like the logistics of all this like rapid shipping. And he was like, I want to make Prime such a good deal that it would be ill-advised for people to not have Prime. And I can prove it to you by measuring it in time. If you look at the average person, how many minutes or hours or whatever they spend in a Walmart, Target, Costco, big box retail, and we can shrink that down, and I'm saving you time of your life. So it would actually be ill-advised to not be a Prime member. Jack Ma then, is saying like some version of that. The point I'm making here is that as more and more Amazons and Alibabas, and there's one, what's the Africa one? Jumia. What's the South America one? Mercado Libre. I'm sure this exists in Europe, and also Amazon exists in Europe, but there's probably like a Europe headquartered Amazon type thing, and then like more smaller ones. like regional, or you could think like an Etsy shop, like a smaller like regional thing. But all of these like extra Amazons that come into the fold globally, they just reinforce like how right Bezos and like the early Amazon executives were on the business model. And each subsequent like Alibaba, and then I'm like, okay, Jumia, Mercado Libre, but then like there really isn't much else. There's a handful of them that you can even name. So as each subsequent one comes in, they all become more and more forgotten. But the first one, with an interesting founder, keyword founder, gets more and more interesting. For some reason, the human condition is so obsessed with like net worth of like the mega rich, whatever. So as Amazon, keeps going up and up and up, he stays in the public discussion by just net worth alone and how he's like climbing the ranks. And oh, by the way, Amazon is a business. We got Prime, we got AWS, we got Kindle, we got all these other like great things that are working. We're employing like hundreds of thousands of people. We even have some negative publicity, which is like still good publicity, whether it's like AOC or Bernie Sanders saying like Bezos is too rich, Amazon doesn't pay the workers living wage, and they should unionize, or like whatever like grift like he's like pitching. But it just keeps the main guy, the main company, more and more and more interesting. So that's kind of the relationship as it is, as I see it, between strategy and all of the other ones. They all serve to benefit like Rome. They all serve to benefit Rome while weakening themselves individually in the process. So there is really like an interesting like game theory there, you know what I mean? As to like, do people like want to enter like into this kind of strategy, so to speak? Let's go back to the notes. So yeah, back to the PE 30, 40, 50 thing. So I already explained most of that about there's the two components. There's the growth of Bitcoin per share. There's a little bit of subjectivity as to how one can measure it. I think, not to brag, I have picked the best, most conservative way of like measuring it and understanding like the value proposition. Plus, then you just simply add whatever one thinks that that Bitcoin's going to do on a number go up basis going forward. Plus, then here's the end of it. There should be a subtraction from that, Bitcoin per share plus Bitcoin expected, future growth CAGR minus whatever. And this is where it gets tricky from a calculation perspective, minus whatever percent that one calculates for the dividend payments of the prefs. Only fair to subtract that out. I wouldn't say subtract out like the notional debt amounts of either like the existing converts or the notional base value of all the prefs, because for the converts, like that stuff already gets baked in like day one. Like the dilution of the converts, to me, and also to strategy, I love the way they phrase this, is that like they just always want to work with like the fully diluted ADSO, the assumed diluted shares outstanding, fully diluted number, meaning like day one, when they were doing converts, day one of the convert, we know how many like shares are going to be created in like 5 years. Let's bake that into the numbers now. Like, let's get it over with. Let's, do the like calculate in all the, dilution now, and just work with that number. So, and by the way, I totally agree with doing that. That's in the school of thought that I was saying about like, this should be a a conservative thing. You want to like plan for the worst, hope for the best, that kind of approach there. So yeah, I mean, to the extent that people think like there should be some kind of structure to PE multiples, I mean, you've got Costco regularly hanging out in the mid 50s price to earnings multiple. And I mean, are they the best retailer? Sure. I mean, you know, Walmart does more top line. I don't know the margins, like the net profit margins of either of these companies. Well, Walmart might be like 2%. It might be like 1.5%. They bring nothing down to the bottom line, but Amazon is still, I believe, I don't think it's Amazon. I could be wrong on this, but I think Walmart is the highest revenue generating company in the world. I believe. I could be wrong on that. Something to the tune of maybe like $600 to $700 billion a year. I think I could be wrong on that, but the trillion's coming. The trillion is coming in notional terms. That Walmart will sell like $1 trillion worth of goods in a number of years. Could be a handful, could be closer to 10, but I think it's probably a small handful. Might be 4 or 5 years or something. But so yeah, now we're talking about Walmart revenue. Let's get back to the notes. So yeah, I think 30, 40, 50, 30 is like, you know, we're probably at like a 7 or 8 or maybe even like a 6 price to earnings. I haven't run these numbers in a while, but let's say it's, you know, 8 and we go to 32, because I think 30, and I'm not suggesting it would teleport there or anything like that, but imagine like a slow grind to like a 32. That's a 4x in the stock price. I don't know where we're at, if we're in the 350s, 340s, 330s, 320s, 310s. I don't know where we're at right now. We got a lot going on. Haven't really checked any of this stuff, but so you'd be talking about like if we're, you know, 300 right now, it'd be a $1,200 stock. And to me, I think that's like the bottom of what fair value is. So if people are looking for more on that, like I said, it's the net growth rate post. Let's see what else we want to talk about here. I got plenty of stuff here. Asset. What's the deal with Asset there? I will set the Bernie impression. Jeff Bezos. Now I'm gonna mess it up because I'm thinking about it. But I am gonna look at the chat for this. Like Asset, what's the deal there with the loan rate? I'm not talking about the operations of the company. The loan rate on Asset, last I checked, was like 300 something %, which is bringing in like hundreds of dollars a day for me. And I have no idea how or why this is happening. I mean, it's like a remarkable dividend. I have no idea how or why this is happening. I've never seen anything like this. Especially, it's been a while. Like it's been like weeks, months of this. Like it's been going on. It's been going up. It was like 60 to 80% when it first started around there. I was like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. Usually it's like 1 or 2%. Like Semler would get loaned out 1 or 2%. And these are like smaller, much smaller positions for me relative to like strategy. But the Assets yielding like 300 something %. I mean, it's unbelievable. If anyone knows why this is happening or has a theory, I'd love to hear it. Feel free to throw it in the chat. But yeah, I mean, that's like nuts. Now for Asset as the business, and I'm not picking on Asset here for like a True North related like reason or anything like that. This is like a honest question. What's up with buying Semler for $90 a share? I saw someone posted, or I saw like a video clip a week or so, or like close to when the deal was announced. I was in New Mexico then. I was like, oh geez, glad I stopped selling covered calls on Semler here. But the price started languishing again anyway. But I know someone said something like, oh, it goes off like the pipe pricing of asset. It's not actually $90 or something like that. So again, if anyone knows about this, because like, look, these are smart people. I might have like a temporary kind of like beef here or something on something totally unrelated, but these are smart people. If Semler's at $28, they're not going to run up to the, call Mr. Semler up, be like, hey, would you take 90 for it? Like, they wouldn't do that. I believe from my understanding, it was like a no cash deal, meaning like all equity. So then there's like a dilution concept there. Like I like it's more messy and complicated to my understanding that they paid $90 a share. But I don't know. I don't get it. I also I don't know if I agree with the acquisition itself. And as a shareholder, I can, hey, this is partially my company too. Yeah, I don't know if I see the like the QuantaFlow and like the heart disease testing type stuff. I was so bullish on it originally because I'd never seen a business with fundamentals as Semler. When I first started looking at this, 90% gross profit margins, revenue and net income CAGRing at like 22-23% a year for the past 5 or 8 years. I forget how much data I pulled. No debt on the company. What else? There was a couple other things. Mr. Semler himself had even like bought shares of the stock recently, but like the actual business fundamentals, I'm blanking on a lot of stuff now, but revenue, net income, 22-23% CAGR per year, no debt on the business. It's gonna drive me nuts. I know there was several other like big points on there. The challenge is the healthcare business. It's and the other challenge was QuantaFlow, single product, single use case. They were looking to expand into, I believe, heart disease testing. I'm really reaching for a lot of this stuff here. I haven't looked into Semler like that in a while. But it's like, look, healthcare is so tough. It's so wonky. You're at the mercy of like the FDA. You're at the mercy of like, is this drug gonna, pass like clinical trials? And I know, Semler, they're not in the drug making business like I was at Bristol Myers Squibb, but it's still medical device, medical like products that still, has to deal with like the same scrutiny as like capsules, tablets, any type of like pharmaceutical. And I wasn't on like the science, like engineering side of this. I was more on like the data analyst in IT. So I wasn't actually, making the drugs or anything. Again, folks, it's a comedy show. But yeah. All right. Let me go back to the notes here before I lose my train of thought. I've got some good jokes in here for the next show. Can we briefly touch on how bad some of these takes on AI are? I mean, whether it was like Brian Johnson or who's the guy, the Matt Walsh guy, or like I don't know. We've all seen them. Like these people who think like millions of jobs are going to be wiped away, and oh gosh forbid someone like makes a video of me like saying something and it hurts my brand value, my corporate brand value, or yeah, all the industries are going to collapse because we have a chat bot, or I don't know what else is there, devastation of the Elon Musk. Remember him? Elon Musk being like, "Oh, I've been trying to warn everyone about the dangers of AI, artificial intelligence. That's why I started OpenAI was to was to kind of be a counter to Google, who kind of had a monopoly on all of the world's information. And Larry Page was not a humanist, and he wanted AI to destroy the world. So I started OpenAI as a nonprofit, open source, nonprofit. And then Sam, but Elon likes to talk this like big game of like, I've warned everyone about the dangers and the risks of AI. Again, all because of a chatbot. It's a good chatbot, but it's a chatbot. Let's not get carried away here. I just find it so ironic and just kind of stupid, quite frankly, that you have Elon being like, "Oh, look at me. I warned everyone about AI," but he's building humanoid robots that could, like, I don't know, potentially maybe have like an iRobot like type outcome. And he'll like giggle and like joke about that, like in like a Tesla like shareholder meeting, not like the conference calls, not like the earnings calls, but like the shareholder meetings where it's him like being a goofball on stage. Or they're like doing an updated like demo of Optimus, and Elon will be like, "Yeah, so we want to like keep the strength of the Optimus bot at like a pretty like limited level, like bombing. We want to keep it at like a limited level, just in case anyone ever had to, physically overpower the robot. They should be able to." Ha 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 ha. And it's just so fucking stupid. Like, you're allowed to believe either one of those things. That like we have to warn the people about AI. You can believe that by itself. That's fine. Or you can make the humanoid robots, but you cannot do both. You cannot associate your name with credit for literally both of those obviously contradicting ideas. But yeah, there are just so many like horrendously awful like takes. Speaking of Elon Musk, here's another one of his horrendously awful AI takes. We're still very much on the AI topic. He video conferenced into some speaking engagement. Again, the corporate crap, all these extra useless, unnecessary like speaking engagements and like fireside chats and like all this crap. But he was, it's this pitch that he makes on like, if an economy is like GDP per capita divided by capita or whatever, divided by GDP divided by the people in the area. Christ almighty. Doing this live, folks. So Elon will be like, if an economy is, GDP divided by like number of people in that area, well, what even is the economy when resources are abundant and AI is the singularity and we just have unlimited productivity? It's like, this is so wrong. Yes, I'm saying Elon Musk is wrong in saying that a chatbot, gotta move the Zen pouch around, by saying that like a chatbot is going to create this like abundance. It's like, no, the fuck it's not. You know why? Because the resources don't actually become abundant. Whether it's like a rare earth mineral or oil or solar panels or refrigerators or stainless steel or this stuff or that stuff, it doesn't actually become abundant just because we have a better product for search and retrieve information. Okay, that doesn't just make more factories spring up because we have a better chatbot. But in order to have this abundance that Elon's talking about, where it's like an infinite economy, is what he's suggesting with the formula. It's like, no, the fuck, that's not going to happen. Not in our lifetimes. This infinite, abundant resource. It's all like selling people the infinity story, right? Like, we're gonna go to Mars. We're gonna do electric cars. Good rhyme. We're gonna go to Mars. We're gonna do electric cars. We're gonna put steel bars underneath the ground with the Boring Company, which, by the way, I think the Boring Company is like about to go under. I don't think they're getting buy-in that they need over there. But we're putting the Neuralink chips into monkeys to also put into humans. What else are we doing? We're running Twitter. Like, isn't it nice to just have like strategy where like all of the employees, they just do one thing. They just do, how can we get more Bitcoin here? They just do one thing. They're not buying Twitter and then very shortly after that rushing to overthrow foreign governments. I mean, every little thing with this guy, with Canada, with Europe. I mean, he wants to like overthrow all these like world leaders, and it's just so crazy to be thinking that like he's even like remotely involved in like Tesla or SpaceX or like any of this stuff. The dude's on Twitter nonstop all day. On Twitter nonstop all day, or on a podcast tour, or on a media tour, or on, I don't know. I mean, it's just so nice to not own this and have not owned it for over a year. Oh my gosh, my quality of life like just vertically went higher when like I just don't have to care about this business. Which, by the way, you want to talk Tesla? You want to chop it up with Tesla? Let's go. We just did the roast of Elon Musk. Let's now go into the bear case of Tesla Motors. This is a negative growth story in terms of the car business, which, by the way, I believe that's still 86% of revenues is the car business. 86%. And by the way, the only thing that's working at Tesla is Megapacks and AutoBidder and like energy. That's the only like business that is growing. But the main bulk of it, 86%, roughly, it's at least 8%, is the car business. And it's a negative growth story. There's a great chart. I would love to be showing this from Statista, showing the units sold by year and by quarter, color coded by quarter. And you can see for the past couple of years, if you look at the chart, that was one of my good catchphrases. Like, look at the chart. Like, we're selling less cars than we did last quarter and last year and the year before that. The past 2-3 years, and I've posted this before. I could find it on Twitter, tell you which post it is. But the car business is a negative growth story. Why do I keep harping on the negative growth story of the car business? Great question. That's because this stock trading at like 250 times earnings is like mostly hype around Optimus. That's not coming from me. That's like coming from Elon. That's coming from all of the, people who are like Tesla analysts, which, by the way, there's like 1 or 2 Tesla analysts on Twitter. They're all just like Elon supporters, and like no one pushes back on the political stuff, which they should. No one pushes back that like this guy has like 27 kids. He has like 8 CEO jobs. He's just like hoarding CEO titles. He has Walter Isaacson following him around and doing a lot of his heavy lifting on the media side in CNBC. Walter Isaacson did the book. Walter Isaacson's on CNBC every time that there's controversy, Elon, like a new controversy, they roll Walter Isaacson out to go be the good cop, be the adult in the room, be the guy who's not talking about aliens on an earnings call. Some people might think I'm kidding about that. No, that was like a regular occurrence. I'd listen to, I don't know, somewhere between 25 and 30 like Tesla earnings calls. Quite frequently, Elon would mention aliens on a Tesla earnings call. Should be like the formal conversation. No, but like SpaceX would get brought into it, aliens. I mean, it's unbelievable. And none of the Elon analysts on Twitter would ever dare like be like, hey man, is this really the best use of your time? No one will dare say that. All right, so the reason that the car negative growth story is such a big deal, here's where it really all comes home, is that the cars from a consumer adoption piece is way easier of a lift than come on, just stay there. The selling people an electric car, which by the way, they're great. I have a Cybertruck now. I love it. It's the best vehicle on the road. I used to have a Model S. Loved it. The cars are great. They're amazing. But that's an easier sell to people because people already had gas cars. It's still a car. It's just the motor, the powertrain is different. You charge it. You don't put gas in it. You don't put oil in it. And all those changes are like all net positive. Who wants to do oil changes? Who wants to grind down their brakes? No, it's like get a Tesla, one pedal driving. You never even use the brake pedal. The brakes, like they last forever. Way less maintenance. The software updates over the air. Like the software, the car gets better and it's just sitting in your garage. Like it's the app is great. The tablet, like in the Cybertruck, it's just all the data is right there. It's so smooth. It's great. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing team. I love it. But it's so much easier to sell people on an electric car because they're already used to a gas car. It's much, much, much harder to sell people on a human robot walking around in their kitchen with a knife to cut vegetables for dinner. That is let's put the orange shades on here to flex the how strategy is just like an easier to understand business. It's an easier to run business, which is good. That's what we want. Go read Buffett and Munger. That's what we want. It's going to be so hard for them to convince people to put a humanoid robot into their house. It's a totally, totally new thing. And that's only on the customer adoption piece. You want to talk the regulatory concerns? Do you think these are like too dark? I can't like see anything out of them. You want to talk like regulatory and like political concerns? Do you think Elizabeth Warren and her army of allies, let's call them, want Elon Musk putting robots in people's houses? Of course not. They're going to do everything they can to stop him on this and on everything else that he does. Like he's created so many enemies idiotically. And that's like, I'll create enemies. David Bailey, what's up? But I'm not a public company CEO and like responsible for like the money of other people. So it's fair for me to, say that. It's like, look, man, this is just not the right time, not the right place to be creating these enemies who are like with certainty, like remember that, what was this woman's name? Lorena Gonzalez, I think, Congresswoman, Senator, California, I think. We're roughly right on that when she did that like infamous tweet of like fuck Elon Musk. This was like, I think, early 2020, like May of 2020, and then Elon like responds back like noted. It's like, here's an idea. Let's have this happen instead. Let's never have a politician be like, fuck Elon Musk. Like, isn't it good? Isn't it nice and enjoyable that no one's like, and let's not even make it about strategy. Isn't it nice that no politician is saying like, fuck Jensen Huang? Jensen's a smooth cat, man. I really look up to him. Of course, like I don't even know like about on the technical side, but like his people skills and his like ability to like work the room and like, you know, really deliver like an insightful message, both in like shareholder meetings with him on stage, but also in like earnings calls. Like this guy is just a smooth cat. One of, also, by the way, this is important, one of the coolest, if not the coolest career trajectory with the most legendary like LinkedIn profile of like, you know, my first job was busboy, server, hostess at Denny's. I did that for several years. My next job was being the CEO of NVIDIA. Like, dude, that is America, baby. That is what this country is. It's rags to riches. It's taking a chance. It's also creating your own thing. You know what I mean? And then you employ other people. You create jobs. Like you impact the economy. And it doesn't have to be NVIDIA. It can be a local butcher shop. And you got a crew of a couple folks. You can be putting roofs on houses. And you got a couple trucks. 3 guys, 4 guys in a truck, whatever. And it's like, that is cool. You know what I mean? Shout out Jensen Huang. Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. And it's just so nice that there's no politicians being like, fuck you, Jensen Huang. Because he's really smart in not creating enemies when you're representing like millions of shareholders, both in all the countries of the world. Millions of people all over the place are like counting on you to do a good job and stay focused. You know what I mean? But you look at like Elon, like, you know, what was it, like 18 months ago, out of nowhere, he just tweets like, oh, the Roadster, it's going to fly. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, this is just such a useless distraction. The Roadster is provably not going to move the needle, like, for the company at all. Like, even in like the most like successful, like the Roadster is not going to move the needle. This is a distraction. This is also a direct contradiction to what Elon had said to justify the Boring Company, was that flying cars are bad because we don't want to have to worry about like, did everyone service their flying car, or am I going to get crushed by a flying car? Which, by the way, I agree with. He can't, and that's why I remembered it, because I was like, oh, that makes sense. I like that. So he's like, let's do the tunnels instead. We'll do everything like underneath instead of having all these projectiles like flying around. I was like, you know what? I like that. But then 4 or 5 years later, we need something like fun, spicy to talk about with the base. And he said this on a podcast. He said this on a post on Twitter, like, oh, like the Roadster, it's going to fly. And by the way, the new Roadster, not like the original like birth of Tesla Roadster, like the new Roadster. I think I forget his name, MKBHD. I think it's Marquise Brown. He's the gentleman who's been reviewing tech for like a decade, like Blackberries, iPhones, like all the way up till now, and everything in between. Fuck, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, there's this like infamous MKBHD Twitter post from him in like 2018 saying and like showing the screenshot on the Tesla website. It's like, just ordered my like new Tesla Roadster. Showed like the combination screenshot, like can't wait to check it out. 2018, rough, maybe give or take a year. Still no new Tesla Roadster in what's like soon to be 2026. So, I mean, it's just like the amount of times that this guy has like, you know, overpromised and underdelivered, Elon, it's like, it's too many to count. Too many to count. Every statistic that they listed in advance of the Cybertruck launch was wrong to the upside, all of them. Range, top speed, acceleration, towing capacity. What else? The extendable battery for the Cyber Beast to give you more range. They just dropped that. They're like, we're not going to do that anymore. Never sold one of them, of the battery range extender. So yeah, but no one's gonna like on Twitter is gonna criticize him for this because it's Elon Musk. You know, that's a dangerous thing. I'm so bothered by his political activity too. This feels good to get the Elon thing off my chest because I've been writing like long form posts on this stuff. Both on many of them are gone on my old Twitter when I deleted it like a moron. Key thing here. Don't delete the Twitter account. I do like really very, very much regret not being able to access my own posts, but back then I just didn't have like just straight up didn't have the willpower to like not be on like the site. Like what's everyone saying? Like, mostly like what are like the Fred Krugers and Wayne Vaughns like saying? Like, yo, just like call me a fucking like baby monkey one more time, Fred, you fucking engagement grifter. But now I don't care about any of that stuff, so I can easily like tune it out and just not be on the app, not be on my phone at all. A lot of times I'll keep my phone like this in the case so that it's like the screen's like trapped away from me. I can't even see it. I'm about to break my case doing this, but when it's like this and on both sides, it's no screen. It's like, oh, can't use it. Screen's not even there. But back then it was just a different story. So I was like, all right, I just have to delete the account. And then I didn't know you have 30 days where you can recover it and get all your tweets back. I didn't even like want to recover it until like, I don't know, 90 days after. And then I was like, crap, I could have saved all the tweets if I just realized this sooner. Anyway, don't delete the Twitter account. If anything, delete an individual tweet or something that really bothers you, but keep the record of it. It'll mean something to you. Let's check the notes here. Interesting observation. How long have we been going? You won't get this on True North. You won't get almost 2 hours from one person. You're gonna get the Brady Bunch effect of like 6 people. You'll get, what's that guy's name? Livingston, like just AI screaming in all caps about like all these adjectives, like all these obvious over the top adjectives that just try and like make people like look smart, but it's like it's all fluff. It's all for show. It's all pro wrestling. It's all people trying to like win some popularity contest that doesn't exist. It's all fake. My God. And like no one, like everyone just like, who else but me is going to say this? I don't know. But let's get out of here. I want to cuddle up with the dog and go to sleep. But it was fun to get a show in before I turned 33. I wanted to start this show while still being 32 because 33 is like a sloppier number. I like how round the 32 number is. I love the 8x4, 30. It was a good year though. It was a good year. But let's talk about one thing, kind of unrelated, but I think it's fun, and that's what we're here for. We are here for fun. Benjamin Hodel, any comment on asset? Let me check the chat. Any comment on asset dropping to it? Is it $1? Sometimes the aftermarket is fake for things that are more like illiquid. Like if it's like Strategy or Tesla, it's real like liquidity, but something like asset. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Is this thing $1? Yeah, that might be real. I remember seeing like a lot of times like Semler with like no liquidity in the pre-market, post-market, like all of those prices were fake. There was like one share or it was just a blip that you couldn't have even gotten filled. Like you fundamentally would not have gotten filled at that price. That's why I mean like it's fake. It's just like it doesn't matter. But this looks pretty real. I mean, my gosh. Is this why those guys were saying like Ben Fiat? Is that how you pronounce his last name? Which would be very funny. I like legitimately if that's how you pronounce it. Is this why those guys were like, oh, I didn't personally sell any shares to try and like, start doing like crisis PR? I don't know, man. This looks real. Like right at the close is when it was already down big, 13% going into the 4 p.m. close, but then it's just the bottom falls out. And this looks real because there's so much price after that. Wow, dude, asset might be $1. This is why it's good to get away from the computers. I see strategies in the low 300s as well. But look, this stuff doesn't matter. Like we including myself, in the human condition, everyone gets so like short-term focused. But like in investing, the application of that ends up being in just being so overly concerned with like short-term price action. And by everything I just said right there is only singularly applied to strategy, not at all applied to asset. The asset thing looks bad. Take that with a grain of salt, pun intended, in that I have no idea. Like this is my first time seeing this. The Benjamin Hodel face is what stood out. Like I saw that little teeny tiny circle with the Ben Frank with the red eyes. I mean, dude, asset might be $1 a share. I have no information on this. It did look kind of concerning, but I just didn't care that I saw Fiat. If that's his last name, that's hilarious, and I support that. Being like, I did not sell shares today. That's typically not a good thing when people even have to say that in the first place. It's like, here's the other thing. What would some of these Bitcoin treasury companies do without Twitter? it seems with many of them, all they do is Twitter. Like, all they do is just post things such as Nakamoto. It's just David Bailey on Twitter. Like, this is such a clown show. There's nothing actually going on behind the scenes. And by the way, let's revisit that sandwich issue from Bitcoin Vegas. I mean, nothing could have more properly ruined that conference than a wet gas station sandwich in a white box. We're in this beautiful, I feel like Sebastian Maniscalco when he's like, you got an igloo cooler in this beautiful hotel. Are you nuts? You brought chicken cutlets into this beautiful facility, the igloo cooler. It's like you're putting a horrendously awful sandwich in with these people who present themselves as like well-to-do business people. It's like you could not have killed the mood, the vibe, the morale any worse. Like, no food would have been a better choice by a factor of 1,000,000. That's how fucking bad this decision was to have. I think so little of like the Bitcoin magazine or whatever it is, or whoever like runs these conferences. Like, I think so little of the whole thing because of the sandwiches. That was such an horrendously awful decision. And I get it. Everything's cost benefit analysis. If you guys are going to get cheap on food, which by the way, if you're going to have an event, don't go cheap on food, or just don't have the event. Better option. You have people coming on airplanes with passports from other countries, and you're going to be like, welcome to Vegas, America's playground. Here's this slop. Here's this disgusting take on what could be an excellent meal. You ever have like a good deli in the Northeast? Like good, from not a corporate like slop. I mean like a mom and pop like deli. Fresh bread, fresh meats, fresh lettuce. Oh, bacon in there, turkey, roast beef, couple different cheeses. Oh, better than sex. You eat a good deli sandwich in the Northeast. I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Instead, David Bailey, and I don't even know if it's him who's, is like organizing the conference. Who cares? I've never seen a worse business decision though. The white sandwiches. I'm more concerned about that than I am the asset thing. But honestly, the asset thing looks bad. This looks bad. Maybe I'll do a quick here just because I'm very curious in the moment. But then we're gonna wrap the broadcast on that, folks. Actually, one last thing. Let's just go to Matt Cole's Twitter. So is that today? Okay, so today the S4 was filed for the pending acquisition of Semler. Maybe everyone realized that these guys just bought Semler at $90 a share when it was $28 a share, and they were like, "Yeah, we're all out now that this is official." Context on that too. Let's say let's use the $28 price. I need to get a haircut too. Oh gosh, don't even. The other day I wasn't even shaven. It was just all over the place. But let's use the $28 share price as the starting point. any acquisition would have to be bought out at a higher price. I don't want to say premium because that is a hot, toxic, loaded word. But you'd have to, whoever's doing the acquiring would have to pay more than $28 a share. Now, the premium, the difference between what they closed at and what like the previous share price was on the day prior, it's going to be something to the tune of like 30%, 40%, like 50% would be like a really like generous one based on the ones that I've seen. And so 30% of 28, that's 2.8 times 3. I mean, they could have, theoretically, like $40 could be like a fair like buyout value price, roughly, give or take a couple dollars. You know what I mean? It doesn't change the point here that if they paid a little bit more than double what like the fair like buyout value that I, roughly, without putting, pen to paper on this, $40, that because you have to do right by the existing shareholders. That's why you cannot just pay $28. You're paying more than $28, but you shouldn't be paying like 3 times more than $28 from 30 to 90. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the whole market just realized like, wow, these guys really bought Semler at $90 a share instead of 40. And maybe we hate the acquisition in general, regardless of price. Who knows? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I won't figure it out. I really just don't care that much. Like the asset position is so small, it's not going to move. And it's even smaller. It's even smaller now. But it's just, I'm wrecked on this thing too. I mean, we all are. Even like before today was probably net down on that thing, like 35, 40%, something like that. But hey, I thought, let's okay. Here's the fun thing I wanted to say. I watched a really good documentary, and I just want to talk about it briefly, and then I'm going to get out of here. The Jerry Jones, America's Team. It's the gambler and his Cowboys. Really, 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 really cool. I've watched the whole thing through like 3 times. There's going to be a 4th and a 5th time, whenever that time is right. But this is just a fascinating story, like the Jerry Jones story of, being a resourceful like businessman and wanting to control his own destiny and like down to like do his own thing, down to go against the grain, love to take risks, was very comfortable with managing uncertainty and volatility all over the place, was very comfortable in that environment. I think there's a lot to learn from Mr. Jones. And this documentary just does an excellent job of showing that. You also get a classic ego battle between Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones as to like who gets the credit and who gets, the kind of the corporate crap kind of like creeps in that like ego, Machiavellian, all that stuff. The players all remember the 90s like it was yesterday. Michael Irvin is one of the funniest people I think I've ever observed, honestly. I mean, there's a smoothness, a crispness, a sophistication, just a masterclass in humor. Deion Sanders, I would say, is the greatest football player of all time. I mean, I think he's that talented. I think he could play any skill position. He's in the documentary. I think he could play any skill position, even quarterback, honestly, at a high level. Who else? Troy, just so like chill, not emotional, just laser focused. Emmett Smith, really cool, fun guy, personable. Like he's a guy you just agree with, like what he's saying. Charles Haley, this is my guy. I so much resonate with like the Charles Haleys of the world and the Dennis Rodmans of the world, the guys who are, willing to be misunderstood, want to be, creative, want to be rowdy, but have like such an undying loyalty to the group. And, Charles Haley was just so solid in that, and how he went from the 49ers to the Cowboys. And, he said, God gave me a second chance to show them that I'm not going to be easy to replace. And for such an interesting, colorful character such as him to also be such a deep thinker, such a man of consequence, it's just so interesting. And these guys remember the 90s like it was yesterday. Like I was born in 92. I think the Cowboys won a Super Bowl that year, and they remember this stuff like it happened yesterday, like something that happened at practice. They're giving you the play-by-play of what happened. And it's so fascinating. I think that stuff's even more interesting than the actual like football game itself, honestly, because you get to see the business side of things, you get to see the people side of things, and you get to kind of like learn from their mistakes. Dennis Rodman, bad as I want to be. Oh my God, dude, Dennis Rodman is a bad man. But yeah, wanted to end on a fun kind of like, totally unrelated, because we want to keep it fun. The show's brand is fun. It's like with my nieces and nephews, I tell them my brand is fun. I want to be the funkle. But yeah, I really, really, really impressive documentary. Gonna recommend it. Probably gonna watch it tonight because I'm thinking about it. Try and get a pizza out here or something. But thanks, everyone. We're going to stick to our Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern because there is no, retail MSTR-focused show that occurs at Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. There is not another one. We're the only one. I'm going to use my Zin cans as like poker chips, try and work the room a little bit. But thanks everyone for joining. I feel good about bouncing back after that dump of an episode. If you didn't watch episode 5, don't. It sucked. I almost couldn't sleep that night. I was like, God, that was awful. I rushed it. It was all over the place. It was unorganized. I didn't even shave. Looked like a dirtbag. The house was a dump. There was like pizza boxes and like water bottles behind me. But we feel good. We're getting settled in. The dog is great. We're going to go cuddle and go to sleep. Good night, everyone. Have a good weekend. Oh, gosh, are you sure you want to end? Yes, end it.